Before starting this video, I do want to give a shout out to my patrons that support the channel. And if you'd like to support the channel, there are some great benefits for you if you want to look at the Patreon link down below. So with that out of the way, let's get into this week's video. What's going on YouTube? This is Devin coming back at you with another video today on PubStomp MTG. Glad to have you here. We have some exciting, and I mean some exciting news. We got some first looks and some previews of some cards that are coming out in the March of the Machine set. So let's dive in. Let's see some of the cards that we are going to see in this set. So we do have some great reprints with Phyrexia Praetor's Voice and Ragavan Nimble Pilferer. I can't believe these cards are crazy, outrageous prices. I did want to mention these, and they're awesome treatments right here. I will say about Phyrexia Praetor's Voice, the reason why it's in the new Capenna frame is because Atraxa is actually invading new Capenna because it does have Halo. Elish Norn wants to invade that as hard as it can so that they can stop the Halo infusing with the Phyrexians. So that's the reason why Atraxa is in that frame again right there. Also, not gonna lie, that's a sweet Ragavan frame. In that Kaladesh Inventions frame, I definitely want to get that 100%. These are great cards to be reprinted. I assume that they're going to be like Mystical Archives, that they're going to be in the packs, but kind of just like a separate thing right there. However, let's get into the cards that were spoiled today, and we got a lot of great ones. First up, I do want to mention Chandra, Hope's Beacon. This is just a great Planeswalker overall. After reading this card, I do feel like it's an insane static ability just by herself. For 6 mana, it's really good. Also on top of that, I feel like having that ability to copy instant and sorcery spells, I mean, it's only happening once per turn, but nonetheless, really insane right there, just for a static ability alone. Also, it counts as a mana dork, adding 2 mana in any combination of colors. Insane right there. And on top of that, it gives you that exile ability of exiling the top 5 cards of your library, and then you can play instant or sorcery spells among those exiled cards. And on top of that, I will say what I do like about these abilities is they're both plus abilities, so you can definitely feed into that X ability, dealing X damage to each up to 2 targets. So perfect right there. I mean, 6 mana is pretty expensive, but I feel like for 6 mana, you're getting a lot out of Chandra. Also looking at another card, we do have Breach the Multiverse. This is pretty insane for what it does. Each player mills 10 cards. For each player, choose a creature or planeswalker card in that player's graveyard. Put those cards onto the battlefield under your control. Then each creature you control becomes a Phyrexian in addition to their other types. You know, I am surprised that they didn't put the clause of for each player choose a creature or planeswalker in that player's control that was milled that way. You could just mill them, and on top of that, if you find another creature that was already in the graveyard, you could just get it out anyways instead of just doing the card that was milled in there that way. So for 7 mana, you definitely want to have big effects, and this is no exception right there. Really great card. I like this one a lot, especially in a Reanimator package for sure. However, the craziest part about the spoilers is we did get a lot of legendary creatures to brew around before the full spoiler season is in effect. So for example, we do have Drana and Livala. You're going to see for a lot of these legendary creatures, they're kind of partnering up. I kind of wish they did a partner with, but honestly, I feel like that would have been making this set a lot bigger than what it should be. So probably having them together in a card is pretty well done. So we do have Drana and Livala. So for 4 mana, we have a Flying in Vigilance, Vampire Angel. Activated abilities of creatures your opponents control can't be activated. So that's definitely a great stacks ability, but on top of that, you can have all activated abilities of all creatures your opponents control. So not only is she negating your opponent's creatures, but you're getting all the benefits of your opponent's creatures with this commander right here. Pretty cool one right here overall for a Orzhov commander. So definitely a deadly duo. Also another duo we do have is Kautilda and Lier. So this one's pretty simple. So for Bant, we do have whenever you cast a human spell, target instant or sorcery in your graveyard has flashback until end of turn. Flashback is equal to the mana cost right here. So pretty simple right here, but pretty effective in what they do. So the way I'd probably run this is definitely having low cost humans so that you can play those spells from your graveyard with that flashback cost. So to be honest, this one kind of is interesting, but kind of not interesting. Just in my opinion, I feel like it's just not doing enough for me, in my opinion. I mean, let me know down below in the comments if you like this one. However, we're going to move on to my boy Yargle. He is back and bigger than ever with Multani. No text at all. It's just a vanilla creature in 18-6. Absolutely crazy. They literally just doubled the power and toughness of Yargle and slapped it onto a creature. for 6 mana total, so 18 power just for 6 mana. That's definitely going to be a great fling card right here. But yeah, he's back. He's bigger than ever. Honestly, I love this a lot. Just seeing Yargle come back, just a great card to have. However, not much I can else say because it just is an 18/6. I mean, it's just vanilla, but overall, I just love this because Yargle is back and bigger than ever. However, speaking of frogs, we do also have Thalia and the Gitrog monster back. Thalia is riding the Gitrog monster into battle against Phyrexians right here. And honestly, this might be a really insane stacks commander as it has First Strike and Death Touch. Great stats just by there alone. You may pay an additional land on each of your turns each. So that's really great right there. And on top of that, creatures and non-basic land your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. And whenever Thalia and the Gitrog monster attack, sacrifice a creature or a land, then draw a card. There is so much value coming off this commander. Getting additional lands on the battlefield is going to be great. And on top of that, you can sacrifice them to draw a card if you want to. And on top of that, it's just insane because your opponent's fetch lands or any other non-basic lands are going to have to enter the battlefield tapped no matter what. And creatures your opponent's controlled enter the battlefield tapped. Doesn't matter what kind of creature they are, just tapped right away. Insane card right here. I'm not really too into Abzan, but this kind of makes me want to build an Abzan deck around Thalia and the Gitrog monster. Honestly, a really great combo right here that I never expected. This is just a very aggressive commander doing very aggressive things for sure, because your opponents will have their creatures enter the battlefield tapped, and then you could attack in, not worrying about creatures blocking into it. I mean, I don't think people want to block into it anyways, being a First Strike and Death Touch. However, this is definitely a great stacks commander. But let's move on. Let's discuss some other cards that I found really interesting and pretty unique, and honestly ones that I just really like overall, like Ghalta and Maverin. If you have been watching the channel for a while, you know I'm a big sucker for dinosaurs, especially with Ghalta right here. Honestly, for 7 mana for a 12/12 trample is actually really good stats by itself alone. But on top of that, you do have whenever you attack, choose one. So not just when Ghalta or Maverin attacks, it's just any creature attacking. You can either do one or the other. So for example, it has crit a tapped and attacking XX green dinosaur creature token with trample where X is the greatest power among other attacking creatures. So not this creature by itself. Or you have the option of create X 1/1 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink where X is the number of other attacking creatures. So with this commander, you could either go wide with a lot of vampires or you could go super tall with a lot of dinosaurs. You definitely want to make sure you get those token doublers in there. We did get a lot of great token doubler support with Mondrak. Well, you know me, to be honest, I love my dinosaurs, so I would definitely go full dinosaur tribal with this one. I mean, you could make vampires if you wanted to, but I mean, for me, it's just all about dinosaurs. However, let's move on to another commander pair with Goro and Satoru. I really like this pair as an aggressive strategy. Whenever one or more creatures you control that enter the battlefield this turn deal combat damage to a player, create a 5/5 red dragon spirit creature token with flying, and it has that ability of giving your creatures haste if you wanted to, so that you could activate that ability of making a 5/5 red dragon spirit creature token with flying. Honestly, this is just pretty simple and straight to the point. It isn't Grixis colors, so you do have a lot of support in there if you want to kind of go with a lot of hasty enablers or attackers if you wanted to. For me, I'd probably, the only thing about this that's really holding it back is whenever one or more creatures you control. So it's not whenever a creature deals combat damage. Then again, you'd be making a lot of 5/5 red dragon spirit tokens. I mean, that'd be pretty busted, so I see why they did that clause. But just for 3 mana for a 3/4, really great stats right there. But let's move on. Let's get into Jin-Gitaxias. We did get another version of him, so this is the 3rd iteration of him. And boy, this one is really powerful overall what it does. So this one's going to be a mouthful to read, but it has Ward 2, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, draw a card. That's simple, great right there. It doesn't have that negative ability for your opponents or that positive ability for you, but it does have a great ability of exile Jin-Gitaxias, then return it onto the battlefield transformed into the Saga the Great Synthesis, as long as you only have 7 or more cards in your hand. So for the first lore chapter, it does read, draw cards equal to the number of cards in your hand. You have no maximum hand size as long as you control the Great Synthesis. Its second chapter states, return non-Phyrexian creatures to their owner's hand. So great if you have Phyrexians, not great if you don't. But in its third lore chapter does say you may cast any number of spells from your hand without paying their mana cost, exile the Great Synthesis, then return it back onto the battlefield. So of course when you exile, put it back onto the battlefield, it will be jin-gitaxias. So that first part of the lore chapter, you have no maximum hand size for as long as you control the Great Synthesis. It will go back to jin-gitaxias, so you won't have a maximum hand size anymore because of that clause. But if you play out all your spells in your hand, that's not a completely big deal because that's honestly a really insane effect. I mean, you're going to have a 3-turn clock when you do that. So your opponents do have some time to make sure that they can be ready for that third activation cost. I mean, if they're returning all their non-Phyrexian creatures to their hand, I mean, I feel like it's going to be game over really quick with this card right here. Honestly, I like this one a lot compared to the other ones because it doesn't really have a negative for your opponents. I know sometimes that can be hard for people to deal with, so I try to avoid that as much as I can. However, I am very excited to see what they do with the other Praetors, assuming that they're going to do a whole cycle of this with jin-gitaxias and the other Praetors. I hope so because they did my boy Urbrask so dirty compared to all the other Praetors. They all have these great abilities, and Urbrask kind of just has that okay ability of getting extra value off a card draw. I mean, you're exiling it, but you can play it until end of turn. I mean, for your negative, it's not that bad but compared to the others. This does give me some hope they'll make another Urbrask better than the others, but honestly, my hope dwindles more and more when they reprint another Urbrask like those other two. I mean, it's just kind of unfortunate. But let's move on into this insane, and I mean absolutely insane, spoiler. We have Heliod himself, the god in Theros, completed by the Phyrexian invasion. Absolutely insane. I never thought in a million years I would see Heliod of all gods being completed. I mean, I did think that they would complete some things, but I did not expect this much out of the Phyrexian invasion right here. So reading his front side, it's not really that crazy. When he enters the battlefield, return target enchantment card that isn't a god from your graveyard to your hand. Honestly, not that impressive, but it does have that pay 3 and a Phyrexian blue mana, and transform Heliod the Radiant Dawn, activate only as a sorcery, into Heliod the Warped Eclipse. You may cast spells as though they had flash. And on top of that, spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each card your opponents have drawn this turn. So it looks like it's in a little bit of a wheel strategy, in my opinion. You want to have wheels like Windfall, for example, so that you can make sure everybody draws 7 fresh cards, and then so that you can have your spells cost 21 less. So you can kind of go into an X-Spell theme in here. I mean, you just want to play big splashy stuff with this card right here. I mean, is it the best card ever? I feel like this is not super good. I mean, let me know down below in the comments if you feel differently about this new Heliod. I honestly never expected it in a million years for Heliod or any other god to be completed. Speaking of things that I never thought they would do, they actually completed Omnath, Locust of All. They added that black Phyrexian mana in there, so it is a 5-color commander. We finally got Omnath, but as a Phyrexian. So we have our Phyrexian tribal leader. It's Omnath right there, all 5 colors ready to go. Insane text right here. It's a Phyrexian elemental. And you can essentially play this for 4 mana. I mean, you can play for 5 mana if you want to pay for black, but this is really insane right here. Honestly, the art is so wicked in here. Portals are entering from the sky and also attaching to Omnath. And very similar to the first one, if you would lose unspent mana, that mana becomes black instead. So instead of green mana like the first one, we do have that clause of black instead right there. And at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, look at the top card of your library. You may reveal that card if it has 3 or more colored mana symbols in its mana cost. If you do, add 3 mana of any combination of its colors and put it into your hand. If you don't, reveal it and put it into your hand. So no matter what, you're going to be essentially putting 3 cards into your hand, and if they have 3 or more mana colors in their combination, I guess you get 3 mana, so you could possibly get 9 mana total from this commander right here. Okay, never mind. I think this is really good. After rereading it and reprocessing it, I think this is an amazing card. As a 5-color commander, I definitely think it's going to be very popular to see in the format. Is it going to be the Phyrexian tribal commander? I still feel like Atraxa may be that definition of a Phyrexian tribal commander, but let me know down below in the comments what you think about Omnath, Locust of All. I think this is absolutely insane. Again, never thought in a million years that this would ever happen where we see Heliod, the gods, or Omnath, Locust of All to be completed in this set right here. I'm excited to see what happens and what unfolds for the rest of the set. Let's see if there's going to be any other crazy cards that are going to be Phyrexianized or even partner paired like those other cards right there that we saw previously. Let me know down below in the comments, what are your thoughts about these spoilers? I think it's going to be an absolute banger of a set in my opinion. Also, let me know down below, which of these commanders would you like to see a deck tech on? I'm probably going to do a couple of these. I'm debating on whether of doing it before spoiler season or after spoiler season. Let me know down below in the comments which commander you would like to see in a video so I can do a deep dive into it. This is more of my first impressions of these cards. I'm definitely going to go over a lot of different commanders that are coming out with this new set, but make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. That's definitely the best way to support this channel as I'm trying to grow it. And with that out of the way, thank you for stopping by.